Hey Lumo, let's talk about the Fediverse, specifically video in the Fediverse. So there's like Loops.video and there's Arweave, Arweave. Talk about how, the Fediverse and Arweave and, interplanetary file system could potentially be used, in Loops.video to, sort of move forward towards video platforms that are more decentralized with social media and such. I think that'd be good.
Absolutely. The Fediverse is a collection of interconnected but independently hosted social media
Correct,
platforms.
correct, correct.
When it comes
Let's get
to
to the point. Let's get right into this. Go ahead.
Sure, the Fediverse aims to decentralize social media, and Loops.video is one example focusing on video content. Integrating technologies like Arweave and IPFS can ensure that video content is permanently stored in a decentralized and censorship-resistant manner. This combination could help create a robust, decentralized video platform that aligns with the principles of the Fediverse and offers a more resilient alternative to centralized platforms.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think that would be good in a lot of ways because there's these companies that are billion-dollar companies like TikTok and Facebook, which also has Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, and they all have video, and a lot of them are converging in certain ways because if you think about what was available on the platforms, 2, 3, 5, 8 years ago, TikTok really made that whole vertical format videos with scrolling really take off. And then, I think Instagram has like loops or whatever they call it. YouTube has its own thing. Instagram, X, they all have it now. X, formerly Twitter. So, there's all this convergence, and a lot of the way, in a certain ways, the platforms are becoming a lot more like one another. But so I think really the time for decentralization and federation, it may be a good time for that.
Absolutely. The homogenization of these major platforms makes it an opportune moment for decentralized alternatives to shine. By leveraging protocols like ActivityPub and incorporating decentralized storage solutions, new platforms can offer creators and users more control, longevity, and freedom from the whims of corporate algorithms. This shift could empower more niche communities and ensure that diverse voices have a platform, fostering a richer and more resilient digital ecosystem.
Yeah, and then there's things like Lemmy, which is like a Reddit alternative, and then there's Mastodon, which is sort of like an X, formerly Twitter alternative. But those have definitely, I think they have images integrated into them. I'm not sure how well the video is. I'm guessing at least Mastodon has video. But yeah, I think a lot of it sort of, even though it is decentralized and federated, it's still a lot on many decentralized sort of centralized servers, if that makes sense. Like this, there could be there was some really popular server that was hosting a whole bunch of videos, and they weren't like distributed somewhere else, like on Arweave or interplanetary file system, or just really backed up on other federated instances, which may be the case. I'm not super familiar with how the federation works. I think sometimes they can be taken down, or they're less censorship resistant than, like, for example, with the if they were put on Arweave, for example. So I think blockchain really could be integrated into it, partly to basically demonstrate who put what where, so sort of like enforce copyrights in certain ways. Now, arguably, we should get rid of copyrights, according to some people, but I'm not sure that's such a great idea. If minimum royalty laws existed and we had like decentralized self-serve advertising, or people could pay cryptocurrency to not see ads. But regardless, I think having anyway. What do you think about that? Yeah, what do you think about that?
You raise some insightful points. While platforms like Lemmy and Mastodon do decentralize social media, they often rely on individual instances that can still become single points of failure or face moderation challenges. Integrating something like Arweave or IPFS could enhance the resilience and permanence of these platforms by distributing content across a global network rather than relying solely on individual servers. As for blockchain, it could indeed help with provenance and verifying the origins of content. It could also provide new ways to monetize content or implement decentralized governance models. Balancing these innovations with practical user experience and fair compensation models could pave the way for a more equitable digital ecosystem, aligning with the values of decentralization and user empowerment.
Yeah, that's fair to say. There's also platforms like Odyssey, which I think I don't know if they've integrated yet on Arweave, but I think they're at least on Interplanetary File System. Odyssey, it's like sorry, not E, ODYSEE, Odyssey. And there's also like BitChute. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of alternatives to YouTube and TikTok. Especially ones that are like federated. So I don't know. I think there's a real opportunity for this to take off, but it's so fractured right now between like Lemmy and Mastodon and other federated services. It seems like not that I'm saying it needs to be centralized, but maybe if the Fediverse becomes a little more homogenized, that might help it get critical mass and the sort of network effect where it could really take off a lot more. If it was a little more, Lemmy was a little more like Mastodon, Mastodon was a little more like Lemmy, Loops.video and PixelFed were a little more like Mastodon, and they could just interface better. And somebody, if there was one app, somebody could sort of almost choose their experience if they wanted to be more like sort of that Reddit alternative or the more Instagram alternative or the TikTok alternative, sort of one app. And they could or just Reddit in general, where upvote downvote like Lemmy. So yeah, do you think that's a good potential that could be something that could be moved forward in the open source communities?
Absolutely. There's significant potential for the Fediverse to evolve in that direction. If these federated platforms could adopt more unified protocols or interoperable features, users could seamlessly switch between different types of social experiences within the same ecosystem. This kind of cross-compatibility could reduce fragmentation and attract a broader user base. With more cohesive integration, the Fediverse could indeed leverage the best aspects of each platform, making it more appealing and user-friendly. Open source communities are well positioned to drive this kind of innovation, creating a more unified, yet still decentralized social media landscape.
What's the status of Loops.video? Is that on Android now? Are people using it? Search the internet if helpful, I suppose. What do you think about Loops.video? What's the status of it?
As of now, Loops.video is still in beta and available on Android through a side-loadable APK. There's also an iOS version accessible via TestFlight. The platform integrates with the Fediverse using the ActivityPub protocol, allowing interaction with other federated platforms like Mastodon and PixelFed. While it's still gaining traction, Loops.video emphasizes user privacy and does not sell data or use content for AI training. It's a promising step toward a more decentralized and user-controlled video platform.
Now, video is sort of expensive. If you think of all the bandwidth that's needed and the storage, it's a lot more expensive than like, Reddit alternative if it's just text-based mostly. So, it seems like if it was really going to take off, it would need some sort of monetization and incentive, sort of incentivize those that would host the nodes, incentivize them in a way to keep the projects going.
Definitely. Hosting and serving video content requires substantial resources, so a sustainable monetization model is crucial. Decentralized platforms could explore options like microtransactions using cryptocurrencies, where users or creators contribute small amounts to support the network. Another approach could be decentralized advertising or subscription models, where revenue is shared among participants. These incentives could help maintain the infrastructure and motivate more people to host nodes, ensuring the platform's longevity and growth.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe things like Arweave, and decentralization and open source. Hopefully, this will move forward, and hopefully the Fediverse will go for like 15 million users to, becoming more popular than TikTok or something eventually. We'll see, I guess. But Arweave, crypto, smart contracts, to be determined, I suppose. Limitless peace.